Welcome back to my second tutorial on making Portal 2 maps. Now, in the previous tutorial, we were able to create a test chamber and we textured some walls with some different textures here, and we've also been able to place an info player start into the level. In this tutorial today, we're going to be implementing some interactive objects such as buttons and doors. And in addition, we're going to be adding some light entities so we can light our level up. In order to implement a light into our level, we're going to come to the left here, and we're going to click on the Entity Tool button. Once you've clicked on this, we navigate over here to the right, and under the Objects drop-down box over here, we're going to type in the keyword light. And as you can see, it automatically appears at the top of the list, and we can select it. So the light entity emits light in all directions. So in order to place it, you see this info player start here. Remember when we were implementing this info player start, we clicked in the viewport to put it in, didn't we? So that's exactly what I'm going to do here. We're just going to click on the floor here, and as you can see, there is our light entity, and the entity is represented by this little light bulb icon. Now, in order to interact with it and give it some settings, we're going to double click on it. Oh, and the window's opened on my secondary monitor. I apologise, but it's here. It should just open up like this. And pretty much this allows us to change our brightness settings, and we can even change the colour of the light if we want to. So if we click on brightness here, not brightness HDR, just brightness, and we click pick color, we are able to select the color of that light. So for example, if we wanted a green light, and click OK, and click apply, and as you can see, the light bulb icon changes color depending on the color of the light that you've chosen. So for now, we're going to set it to white, and I'm going to click apply. Now, we can't really have it in the position that it's in at the moment, mainly due to the fact that it will light up the floor, but it won't be actually lighting up the entire room, and it will look like there's a massive white light in the middle of the floor, and that's what we don't want. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our 2D viewport here at the side, and this little X in the middle here, it kind of represents the center of this side wall here, and we know that the center of this wall is kind of like the center of this room, if you think about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go by this X here, and we're going to zoom in here, and we're going to got our light selected in the 3D and 2D viewports, and we can drag it in the 2D viewport up to the middle, and oh, we have a problem. So as we can see, we've got the snapping grid on, and since the light is snapped to this grid, to this dotted grid, we can't actually get it directly in the middle of the room. Now, in order to solve this, if you look on your keyboard, you have two curly bracket keys. Now, you press the left curly bracket key if you want the grid to be scaled down, and you click the right curly bracket key if you want the grid to be scaled upward. So if I click the left one, it's now scaled down, and as you can see, we can now place our light directly on the X in the center of this wall here. So now we need to make sure that this is at the center of the room, and as we can see from our bird's eye viewport, it's just about on it. If you see that the X's are a little bit out, just click and drag, and it should automatically snap it so it's in the middle. Now, I'd say that for a room this size, if we go into the settings, you see the number on the end of these here. So these three numbers here will define the color. So 255, 255, 255 means that this light is going to be white. But this last number here defines the brightness of the light. and depending on the size of the room, you'd want to change this. And what I'd go for, for this sized room, I'd probably go for around 300 to make sure that everything is lit up nicely. And we click apply, and we can close that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to run this map, and we're going to test to see if the light works. In order to test, we go to File, we go to Run Map, or alternatively, you can press F9 on your keyboard. Usually, for newer users, you'll be greeted with this window, and basically it allows you to select a few options. HDR, which is an acronym for High Dynamic Range. Since this is only kind of like a test build, we don't really need that at the moment. However, I prefer using the more advanced one. I'm not really sure if this is appropriate for beginners, but this is usually the one I use because it's just easier for me to understand. Basically, we have some preset configurations up here. If we click on this drop down box, we've got default, we've got fast, we've got full compile, and all these different options here. So what I'd recommend is, if you're compiling this map as a test, if you're whenever you're compiling test maps and stuff like that, I'd either go for default or fast. If you have a large map, then I'd recommend just going for fast, but I think for now we can go for default because our level is very, very small at the moment, and it will be great just to test the lights out. Just a quick note that once you've run your map, Portal 2 will automatically open. If you want Portal 2 to automatically open with your map, make sure this checkbox here is checked, and this will ensure that Hammer Editor opens Portal 2 and loads in the map. So here we go, we're going to compile the map now, and we're going to see how it looks in game. So as we can see here, this is our test chamber that we created in Hammer Editor, and we can see the light in the middle of the room, and as you can see, it's illuminating the room very effectively, and everything seems to be working, including the info player start. We started in the same position as the info player start, so yes, it's working very, very well. Now it's time to implement some more things. We're back in Hammer Editor now, and now we're going to be implementing some objects such as doors, which will be very interesting. So, how exactly do you implement a door? And I can show you how to implement a door. We can go to our entities button here, and up here in objects we can just type the keyword door, and you'll see that all these come up. Now what we need is a prop test chamber door. We click on that, and then we can click in our 3D viewport to place it, and there is our test chamber door. So the only reason I've imported this door is just to show you how you can access a test chamber door and implement it into your level, but we're going to delete that now, like so. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to navigate to another map, and we're going to get the test chamber door from another map, pretty much. Now if you go to File and you go to Open, you'll see mp_co-op_doors. You may be wondering, oh well, Acacia, you have that map, what about me? Well, maybe I don't have that map, and I just wanted to say that this map, I think it's a default map that comes with Portal 2 authoring tools, so anyone will be able to have access to this map, and you can find mp_co-op_doors, which is the map we're going to be using. You can find it under Steam Apps, Common, Portal 2, SDK Content, and Maps. And we'll open this map, and there we go, it's open. And basically, we can navigate the level. I know it looks scary, it looks complicated, but it's not as complicated as you might think it is. But we'll go over to here, to this door, and this is the test chamber door we're going to be copying. Now the reason why we're obtaining the test chamber door from this map is because the archway around it has already been pre-built for us, and it'd be better to bring this test chamber door into our map with the already pre-made archways instead of tediously making the archways ourselves. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the door, and then we're going to select this kind of archway around it. So hold down Control, you've selected the door, hold down Control, and then click on this. And of course there's an archway at the other side of the door as well that we have to select. So select this door, select this archway here, move to the other side, and select it up here. And there you go. So we've selected our two arches either side, and we've selected our door. And you can either hit this little copy button up here, or you can go Control C. You can do what you want, it still copies it. And then we go back to File, and we can navigate to our recent maps here. In fact, our map isn't even on here, so that's really useful. But usually our map is already open, so we can, if we click this little restore button up here, it will restore this map, and as you can see, our map is still open in the background, so it hasn't actually closed this map. And all we need to do now is select our the test chamber floor, and we can go Control V. And there is our test chamber door with the two arches either side. Now what we can do is we can rotate this, we can select this, and we can rotate it like that, 90 degrees. And then, let's say we wanted to place it over here, up against this wall, or something. Let's put it, oh, back a bit. Let's say we wanted to put it here, right on this wall. I think it's right on it. You can see in the bird's eye viewport that it's more or less on it. Let me have a look. Yeah, the arch, as you can see, this front arch is right up against the wall. You can see that by the lines matching. And there is our test chamber door. Now of course we're going to have to change some preferences. So if we double click on our test chamber door, this is the name of the door. In the other map where we got it from, it was called exit door 2 _ props, whatever. But what we're going to do is we're going to cancel this out, and we're going to name it door 1. And the reason why we assign these entities names is so other entities can access these. So for example, if you wanted a button that opens a door when you press it, then the button will have to access the door via this name in order to make it open. Right, so we click apply, and that's, yep, door 1, no, and there's no other outputs or inputs, so it's completely clean. Right, now on this front archway, now it may look a bit weird because we've got all these checkerboard textures around the test chamber, but this archway here isn't the same texture. So of course, like I said before, we can select the arch, and we can go to our texture browser. And interestingly enough, there's another function I discovered recently. If you go down at the bottom here, in the left hand corner, we can see only used textures. And if you check this, the texture browser will only display textures that have actually been used within the map. So we've got our checkerboard texture for the walls, we've got this texture for the ceiling and floor, I believe. This one is for the archways, and this weird texture which says no drawer on it is applied behind the archways. And what no drawer is it's basically a way of optimizing your maps, meaning that when the map is compiled, these walls, since people can't see them, these walls are not rendered, and it really helps with optimization, but you know, we'll cover this later. At the moment we're only focusing on the basics. So if we go to browse over here again, so I kind of rambled on a bit there about no draw, we can click on our tile texture here, and once you've clicked on that we can click the texture button, and there we go. That is now a tile texture, and it matches up with the surroundings. So now all we need to do is navigate to the other side here and texture our secondary arch with the checkerboard color. We've already got the texture selected, so when we click this button it automatically changes, and there we go. So now we've implemented that, what I would like to do is implement maybe a small wall here of some sort next to this door, basically because we want to make this a completely separate room that is an enclosed area. So we can do that by selecting our geometry tool. Remember what we talked about in the last tutorial about making walls and stuff. So here is our test chamber door. It's up against the wall, so we're going to create our geometry here next to it. And if we look in the 3D viewport, we can see if this wall matches. Yep, it matches directly up to the dimensions of the arches, which is a good thing. So we can stretch this along for as long as we like, maybe around here. Maybe make it a smallish kind of room. Press enter. Oh. Remember, up here, make sure you have block selected. Okay, that was my bad. I didn't realise that arch was selected, but if you got block selected up here, then you can make walls and that, so that's what we want. So, okay, so we've placed our geometry in anyway, and we can press enter, and there it is. There is our wall. Now what we can do is we can go to the other side here and we can create another wall here. Drag it up to the wall, the side of the test chamber, so yep, that's matching. So enter, there's our other wall, and maybe we'd like to add like a bit of a ceiling up here or something. Then we can create our geometry here, do it in the bird's eye view, stretch this up a bit in the side view, move it up a bit. And then this will be our ceiling, and as you can see, if we go in here through the door, we've got our little room, which looks quite nice, doesn't it? So that's the basics of kind of importing test chamber door and putting some walls on it, creating some separate rooms and stuff. Now what we're going to do is we're going to save. Always remember to save, we don't want to lose stuff. Save all the time. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to implement a button. Now, in order to implement a button, we can go to our entity tool up here, and we can go to our objects drop-down box, and we type in button. And what we want is a prop floor button. Now, this is the default floor button, so we can put it in here in the 3D viewport. And basically, these are probably quite familiar to you if you play Portal 2, and these are the buttons where you can put the cubes on, and then the buttons will do something depending on whether or not you're standing on it or whether or not there's an object on it. So, if we double click on the button, we can give it a name if we want. We can give it a name of button 1. Maybe if we want to refer to this object later on at some point. We want it, so when we press this button, this test chamber door will open. Okay, so we double click on the button here, and under output, so what we're doing here is we want to fire an output from this button to open the door, so therefore it will be an output. Now we're going to click add, and a little thing will appear here. You can stretch these little columns out if you want to, so you can see them easily. Right, so in here we have to define the output. So if we click on this drop down arrow here, we can see that on pressed blue, unpressed orange and on unpressed, and user for now we're going to ignore on user 1 to 4. We don't need these 4 options here. On pressed blue applies to if you're making a co-op map. So you know when you play Portal 2 co-op with Atlas and Peabody, basically on this option the output that is fired will be when Atlas, who is blue, stands on the button, and this one will be for Peabody when Peabody stands on the button. But since we're doing a single player map at the moment, we're working on a single player map, all we want is on pressed. So this is for single player. And we click on this drop down box, we then can see the names. And remember what we named our test chamber door. We named it door 1, so we select door 1. And now we need to define the input. So how will door 1 react to the output of this button being pressed? Ignore fire user 1, blah, 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 blah. We don't really need that at the moment. What we want is open. So we click open, and there we go. So to summarize that quickly, what we've done is we've done on pressed. When this button is pressed, it will then find the name of door 1, and then this tells door 1 how to react, so it opens when it's pressed. We can click apply to that. Now what we want to do is create a cube. So we go to the entity tool up here, we go to the drop down box on the right, and we type in cube, and what we want is a prop weighted cube. So we click on that, then we can click on our level again, and there we go. Voila, there's our cube in the level. And like I say, you can reposition this where you want to, or kind of change the grid size a bit. Right, there we go. And we can even rotate it a bit if we want to. So remember, we click on it again to rotate it. To go back to normal resize mode, we can click that and click that again. Now it's useful to note that you can't actually resize models, because this is kind of a model. So if we try to resize it, like here, it can't actually resize. So just remember, in Hammer Editor you cannot actually resize any props or models. Now what we're going to do is we're going to double click on this cube, and I'm going to show you some of the settings we can apply to it. So if we go to paint power, we can actually define whether or not there's paint on it, whether or not there's bounce, stick, speed, portal, or none. The skin type, we can select it, whether or not we want it rusted or clean. And the cube type, we can change it to standard, which is your usual standard cube. We've got the companion, which is the one with the heart on the cube. We've got the reflective, which is used for laser puzzles primarily, and a sphere, which is just the sphere, and antique. If you remember playing Portal 2 and you were playing in the Cave Johnson area, basically antique were those type of cubes in that area. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep it as it is, because we just want the default cube for now. We can double click on this button here, just check all the outputs, apply. Now also what we want to do, that I nearly forgot because I'm an idiot, what we want is, fair enough, when you press the button the door will open, but when you get off it's not going to do anything. So what we want to do is we want to add another event. So when this button is unpressed, we then want door 1 to close. So basically when we get on the button it will open, but when we get off the button it will close. Right, so that's that. So we're going to save it there. And now we're going to test the test chamber. Right, hello, we are now in game. And we can see that we have our door, and we have our button, and we have our cube here. So let's say we picked up the cube, and we put it on the button. There we go. As soon as we put the cube on the button, it turns yellow. A few of the displays on the button turn yellow, and the test chamber door opens. As you can see, it looks very nice. Now we can take the cube off, and when we take the cube off, the test chamber door closes. So we put on, open, off, close. And even if the player stands on it, if we stand on it, the test chamber door will open. And if we get off, the test chamber door closes. So one thing that I've already kind of noticed is that the archway here, some of the textures don't actually match up, and I do apologise for that. And actually we're going to fix that now. And you know, I wasn't going to mention this function until the next video tutorial, but I might as well mention it now. So when we click on a wall here, we can click on it, and we can actually change the position of the texture if we want to. So we select it, go to this button here, which is entitled the Toggle Texture Application window. So we click on this, and it should open a window. And basically this allows us to change the position of our texture in terms of X and Y. So for example, if I turn this up, we can see that the texture is slightly moving upward on the y-axis, and if we put it down, then the texture will move downward on the y-axis, and the same goes for the x-axis. But you see, by default, all these walls are set on 0, meaning, which is why all these walls kind of match up. But you see, the archways are actually set on something a bit different. And for some reason we can't actually see the numbers in here, you know, whether it's, you know, a bug or whatever, but we can't actually see the numbers. But remember that the other walls were set on 0, 0. So as long as you type 0 in here and 0 in here, and then click apply, the texture will automatically set itself to 0, 0, and it will match up with all the other textures around it. And I guess the same applies to this archway over here. If we go here, we can type in 0, 0 just to make sure. Yep, there we go. And now that these textures are matched up with the others, like I said, I was going to cover this in another tutorial, but it was worth mentioning now, and I'll probably go into much more detail about the this texture window in the next tutorial. So I think we'll leave it off here, but thank you very much for watching. I hope this really helped you, and I'll see you soon.